signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Beyond the Bat Signal. I'm your host, Dominic Unica. Join me as we dive into the depths of Batman's lore, dissecting the Rogues Gallery, and uncovering the stories of our iconic vigilante known as the Dark Knight. Today we have a fun one where we're going to be reviewing, in case you didn't know in the title, is Batman H2SH. Batman issue number 159. Written by Jeph Loeb, illustrations by Jim Lee. I'd like to share that I did pick up cover A, which was drawn by Jim Lee. Not my favorite Jim Lee cover, but I like it. So before we get into it, I just want to thank each of the listeners who have been tuning in, actually rating and reviewing the show, which has been listening. Greatly appreciated. And if you can, please like and review if you're listening on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio, or I know that a lot of you guys listen on Chrome and whatnot. Please review this show, and as it helps spread the word, really. But with that being said, I am so excited to delve into, basically it is issue number 2 of 12 of this Hush 2 series. So let's just get right into it, shall we? And it starts like, I'm going to give you a review. It is, although somewhat action-packed, it's not quite the impact that issue number 158 had. But Jeph Loeb does not disappoint with this issue. And, you know, it kind of just starts off where you have Bruce kind of reminiscing about Crime Alley and the deaths of his parents. And they have that iconic panel where we always see whenever Bruce's parents are shot, you have younger Bruce just on his knees and just completely devastated in tears. But then we get a shot of Batman with Joker in the Batmobile, which is something where I'm like, you know, I'm not even surprised. His biggest nemesis, but you're like, he doesn't want this guy to die, right? We got that narrative quite frequently throughout Batman comic books, and even like I always think about Heath Ledger's Joker, where he kind of just outlined, like, listen, I need you and you need me because you make life just so much fun and you won't kill me, for basically his one rule. And I just thought, you know, the irony in this, where Batman is taking care of the guy who's caused him so much grief throughout his life. And whether that's the shooting of Barbara Gordon, or it is even something like the death of Jason Todd. But we get a nice little flashback of Bruce Wayne being taken in by Leslie Tompkins, and they go way back. And I actually love how Leslie Tompkins is incorporated into this story. You know, just being fresh off reviewing Batman Arkham Shadow and how she was incorporated into that and the long history between Bruce and Leslie. It's a beautiful story, and I'm really hoping we get more of this, whether it's in Batman animation or in Batman movies, the Batman. But it's kind of cool where, you know, I love how Jim Lee drew the, it looks like second page, but it's the first panel of that second page, and you get to Leslie Tompkins' house. You see the silhouette of Batman. But Leslie opens the door, and there's a couple of fun Easter eggs. She has door number 27, which I'm assuming it was a little Easter egg to Detective Comics number 27. And yeah, they just have a couple fun little Easter eggs sprinkled around this. And Bruce needs help, or Batman needs help, and he's like, listen, I need you to save him. And she's like, listen, like, you can get him inside quick, but I don't know if I have the tools. And he's just saying, whatever you can do your best. And she's just like, he needs to go to a hospital. He's like, absolutely not. So Leslie is doing exactly what she's being told by Batman, and it's like, listen, just do what you can and try to save him. That was it. That's her only job. But her response to Batman is like, please, like, listen, you don't want to bring him to a hospital. You just don't want to be seen in public with this guy. But Batman takes off the cover off Joker, and this guy, although looking very jacked, has been beaten to a pulp. Looks like he has like a broken jaw, and Batman just says, like, he kind of puts it to Leslie, like saying, listen, I know you love to save lives. Like, that's who you are. And we get a nice little title of The Rook. And they kind of give a good little scan as to, like, the bones broken within Joker. And they're taking a good look, and he's obviously waking up. Batman has to sedate him with one of his needles, because, like, of course he's going to have a gadget that just does that. And she just says, take a seat, because this is going to be a while. And Batman has, I guess, like a little dream. And who's he dreaming of? Well, of course, Joker. But it looks like it's Joker who's the one that's killing his parents. That's what it seems like. And it just goes like panel by panel. I made a promise to rid my city of the evil. The evil. And then all I hear is Bruce, like a nice little whisper. And the way Jim Lee just kind of draws this, so you see this psychotic look in Joker's face. Really creepy and kind of disturbing. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a nod to Batman 89, but that's exactly what I got. I'm kind of curious to what you guys thought. If this was a Batman 89 nod where you see Joker killing Bruce's parents. But again, he's in a dream. He's woken up by Leslie Tompkins. And the first question he asks is he dead? And she just says, it's not yet, but your confidence is actually inspiring me. It's almost noon and he'll still be asleep. So she asks, like, listen, you have to get this guy out of here because he needs a real hospital with round-the-clock care. And Batman's just saying, like, listen, he's not welcome anywhere. Like, this, no one's gonna take him. And Leslie responds with, like, well, bring him at Arkham. Batman's like, hell no. So where does he bring him? Well, he brings him to the Batcave. And I love the look that we get of the Batcave where Batman's sitting in his Batman chair. It even has like the two ears while he's sitting there. Love this panel where, so when I'm talking about the two ears, he's sitting on the chair, but like, where like the headrest is, they have like the two, kind of looks like the cowl where it has the 2 pointy ears. Anyway, Batman's looking into Joker and kind of just analyzing, this guy's brain, and it's just saying like, this is just as absolutely astounding. And basically what this computer's showing Batman is his brain is basically like anything he's ever seen before, and it's kind of like a thought bubble that's going through Bruce's mind or Batman's mind. And for as long as I've known the Joker, I've never truly understood him, why he is the way that he is. And it's almost like a character study, like, why are you, like, how are you made the way that you are? And the computer kind of shows something where it says abnormal prefrontal cortex shows dramatic overactivity, while this guy's still knocked out and mouth wired absolute shut. And he's going to have to be fed through a tube. And, Bruce is like, I could have dumped you in the bay, found a furnace, an open grave, or just left you to die. But I will not do what Hush wants. And so what is he doing? Well, he's protecting him. Brings him back to the Batcave. And he says, like, he wants to play this game, but this is a game I'm not going to lose. And, they have one full page of Batman just sitting down, thinking, analyzing the brain activity. And it's such a cool shot. I love it. Batman's got the yellow oval back on. Batman's analyzing closely, like fingerprints that are completely gone. And he's asking like himself, like, is this because of the chemicals? His feet, no prints either. Who would care if you just disappeared? And then all of a sudden, there's a gun pointed directly to Batman's head with a red-colored arm. And Batman just asks, how did you get in here? And the response is, I know how you think. You never would put yourself in a locked room without an exit. Your exit is my entrance. And who is it? Well, none other than Red Hood. And Red Hood's got a gun pointed directly to Joker's head. And this is for revenge as to what Joker's done to him. And if we kind of recall as to, like, under the Red Hood, Jason Todd, rightfully so, is absolutely livid with Batman. Like, how do you let this guy survive after what he did to me? Right? And anyway, so it's kind of like a callback. But anyway, Batman and Red Hood kind of duke it out. Guns are being shot. And Batman's just thinking in the thought bubble, like, this feels different. This time the attacker moves exactly like the real one would. And if we remember from the first Hush, we had Clayface act as if he was risen, or act as Jason Todd, who rose from the dead. But, we all know that we were fooled. And, I talked about this with Ryan Lauer on the Batman Book Club. You can definitely go check it out at the Heart of Hush. But we talked about that where, the one cool thing I kind of wish that they did was have Jason Todd as the villain and not be Clayface. It was so disappointing. But anyway, Jim Lee does a fantastic job drawing this. I mean, Jim Lee's Jim Lee. He's never going to disappoint, I don't think. And Jeph Loeb kind of progresses this story. I think that, where the first one was like, we're off to the races. The second one was more like little crumbs left for the viewer or the reader to kind of follow along. It's still enjoyable. Batman and Jason, or Batman and Red Hood, are just duking it out. And, so Red Hood's mask kind of breaks apart. Jason and Batman are looking at each other face to face, and Batman just goes, Jason. And Red Hood responds, you had to make sure it was me, which is like a nice little nod to the first Hush, making sure it wasn't Clayface. And it was Red Hood who was after Joker. And, cool little panel where Batman's even got the gun pointed right at Red Hood's neck and ready to take him out. And Red Hood just says, like, drop the gun. We both know you're never going to shoot, but I will. And we know that this crazy mother effer will. And I'm going to come here and finish what I had to do. And Batman's just like, have you been talking to Tommy? And Red Hood responds, to Hush, drop the gun. And Batman just says, like, you're not angry at the Joker. He was only a blunt instrument, like the crowbar he hit you with. And they argue. They go back and forth. And Red Hood responds, like, after all I've been through, I can still feel it. And, man, so Red Hood gives a nice pistol whip to Batman's face, and a nice little blood comes right out. And he just cracks his... Well, it hits him over the head with the gun, and Batman's obviously feeling it, but they're still duking it out, fighting each other, and Batman even kind of like spear tackles him right into the Batmobile, which we get a nice little shot of. I like it. I like a good Batmobile, as you guys have heard and know. And Batman just expresses himself like, you know, it's the truth, Jason, because I feel the same way. You were my partner, my Robin. You were also so young. I never should have put you in harm's way. If I did, then it was my job to protect you and mine alone. And, you know, Bruce is kind of expressing himself as to like how upset he was feeling. Like, you know, he overcame a lot too. Like, and he was just upset that, like, if you read the earlier issues, I think was it Batman Year 3 or Lonely Place of Dying, but Batman had a hard time dealing with Jason's death. Like, and he was really upset, really grumpy. And, you know, Batman's got his hand over Red Hood's shoulder, and it's like, it seems like they're about to have a moment, but then Red Hood's just like, how could you save the Joker's life? And just looks absolutely pissed off. And sure enough, we have, it seems like Batman's just been completely knocked out. He's like, how long have I been? Like, he's groggy, and then he looks, he's like, I'm alone. The car's gone. He said he's going to finish what he came here to do. And it was not to kill the Joker. And then to end it off, Batman's like, Jason is working with Hush. To be continued. Now, that's not all. We get a nice little couple page spread where we're at the clock tower, Barbara Gordon's home. And I do kind of get confused, but like the way it's going back and forth. Now, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have Dick and Babs talking back and forth like, listen, tell me again, how did he get in here? And we're like, well, who is he? And she's like, I let him in. And what about the lockdown? He knows where you live. And she just says, like, he's a lot smarter than you. And I'm like, well, who is she talking about? Who's he? And she continues, like, or anyone gives him credit for. I know what that feels like. And if he's saying it's true, then my intuition's that we can only trust each other now. So she's saying this to Dick Grayson. And Batman's like, I can't believe it. The Joker? Wait, if he knows, then they all know. Worst of all, Jason knows. So then he points to the Riddler, who is looking pretty jacked. And he just basically said, like, Dick Grayson says, why would you help us? So it seems like Riddler's shown up to Batgirl's, or the clock tower, where Batgirl stays, and Dick Grayson / Nightwing is like, listen, why the hell are you going to help us? Answer, you don't understand Hush like I do. And Riddler's got a pretty cool looking costume. It's got a check mark. But the only thing I'm not too big on, it looks like he has like a check mark tattoo as well, and that's green over his eye. I don't care for it. Listen, I'm good with just a check mark on the chest, and let's be done with that. But Riddler responds with, you're going to need all the help you can get, Dick, and you, Babs, even Bruce. And behind you have all of Batgirl's bat suits, which are pretty sweet. You got the Riddler cane, which is what Riddler's holding. It kind of reminds me of Jim Carrey's cane that he had. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes next with the help of the Riddler, as he understands Hush really well. And how Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon are kind of incorporated into this as well. It seems like they're going to be working together. But Batman right now was supposed to be looking after the Joker. Joker's completely unconscious. He's been taken and going to be brought to Joker. And that's all thanks to Red Hood. So, like, what is going to happen here? I have to point out, though, that Hush's name was mentioned a couple times, but not once was he seen in this issue. Not too bad, right? Like, I feel like too much Hush might be not the best thing. I don't know. It all depends on how he's included, right? Like, you look at Heart of Hush, that's required. But here, you can tell that they leave enough cookie crumbs just to say, okay, let's progress the story to the next bit. I actually really enjoyed this issue. I thought it was, I mean, how do you criticize Jim Lee? You just don't, right? Like, you really can't. Like, do I have a favorite panel in here? Yes, I just wouldn't say it's like something that is absolute standout in comparison to the first issue that they had. But going on based on what Ryan Lauer's philosophy is can you tell a story just based on one panel? And mine would be the one where Batman's dreaming and he's got Joker in his dreams and you got this psychotic look. He's holding two guns and shooting Bruce Wayne's parents. And it's like, wow. Like, can you create multiple stories in this panel? Absolutely. And it kind of gives me visions of Batman 89, which, of course, I like. Who doesn't like Batman 89? It's a crime if you don't. But yeah, I like the inclusion of Jason. I am a little confused because I'm sure Jason Todd or Red Hood has come across Joker in multiple issues. I wonder how they're kind of including in continuity, or if this is just a carryover of just Hush when Jeph Loeb and Jim Lee drew it all the way to now, and it's just kind of like its own little thing. I don't know. Kind of curious if you guys are able to help me out. Follow along, leave a comment if you're listening on YouTube, or shoot me an email. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this issue quite a bit. What would I give it? I give it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 I think is pretty good. I think the art's, again, always stands out. Jim Lee, I don't think is ever going to disappoint. The issue, although not as action-packed, was still fantastic. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I know that Jeph Loeb he has a couple of bangers coming out. Like, we have, obviously, the Hush saga, again, and the last Halloween, which has been pretty good. I've been enjoying reading that, and I think when I'm recording this, I'm recording on April 29th, 2025, so this should be released on Thursday, and tomorrow I'm going to be picking up Batman The Last Halloween, issue number 7, I think. So, yeah, kind of curious to hear what you think. If you want, send me an email at beyondthebatsignal@gmail.com, or if you have any comments, please shoot me a message on Beyond Bat Signal on X/Twitter. And yeah, rate and review the show. But other than that, this is Beyond the Bat Signal, and we are signing off.